Hey, so Matt Widener here on the first working day after Hurricane Irma came through. We're in Pinellas County. Pinellas County came out kind of okay, but we got lots of areas in the state that are absolutely devastated. I want to talk about the insurance policies and how they work together and sometimes how they work in conflict so that you understand what you need to be doing. I've got in my hands our homeowner's insurance policy, and if you're like many consumers, you got whatever policy somebody recommended to you through an agent. You did whatever the agent said. You never even paid attention to what your policy was. You might have paid only attention to the premiums and the deductible. After that, you didn't read through it. You didn't know what it is. Well, the reality is in many cases, the insurance language, the contract is fairly standardized. And so the product is fairly standard from one to another. But it's the decisions that you as the consumer made about what coverages you selected that'll make a big difference here. Now, I always buy the highest amount of insurance because once you get the base policy, adding a little bit more doesn't really matter. But there are certain places where you have no choice at all, and that is for flood insurance, for example. I think if you don't have flood insurance and you're sitting in the state of Florida, you're making a real grave mistake for you and your whole family. I posted earlier, flood insurance can be had for $458 per year in some areas of the state. Those are the low-risk flood zones. But frankly, I think all of Florida should be looked at as a potential flood zone and get that policy. Now, if you live in areas where flood is required, in AE zone or X zones, of course, it's going to be higher, but that is managed, or that the premium comes from the risk that's involved. Now, what's going to happen if you have a property that's been subject to damage is there's going to be some decisions made, some analysis about where that damage comes from. Now, if you got water 2, 3, 4, 6 foot high in your home, obviously that is flood damage. There's water that's in there. If you have roofs that are blown off, shingles blown off, other damage, trees falling in, that's obviously windstorm damage. But there are going to be decisions and analysis made about what policy is going to pay those out. Obviously, your homeowner is going to go, homeowner's insurance agent, you should be calling right away, get your claim number in there, get an early claim number in, so that when they start lining up their adjusters to get out there, you're at the top of the list, because it really is in sequential order. Where the carriers are going to be sending out adjusters is going to be based on volume and then based on where they think they have higher numbers of claims. So get in there and get them in. Now, I think the carriers are all probably doing a really good job now of setting up phone centers to process and handle these claims all around the country. I think they've gotten a lot better in terms of how they organize those things. So you shouldn't be hearing busy signals. You should be hearing live operators picking up the phone and starting to collect your information, and that's good. The next thing is going to be when they start sending in adjusters. Now, your carrier will send out an adjuster and make a determination. Your policies or the damage is worth X. You may agree with that right away. You may say, that sounds fair to me. Maybe you've got some background, a relative or somebody that's a contractor, and say, hey, X is going to allow your home to be fixed, and that's great. The second thing would be this conflict between the flood insurance and your homeowners and windstorm. So, you know, if homeowners comes out and says X is what it costs to repair the roof, you know that's good, that's fine. But then you got this flood situation, and you're trying to determine, are we going to get any damage paid by flood? And that could be a problem, which comes to what I think is one of the bigger issues that's evolving right now in the context of insurance. And this is a fight between restoration companies and insurance companies that pits a policyholder in the middle. Here's what happens. You got guys driving through, professional restoration services in particular, or other folks that come out and say, hey, we're going to help you by removing all of the flood damaged property, maybe cutting out the drywall, cutting out all that wet stuff down on the bottom, cutting out carpets and all that and bringing it out. No doubt there's lots of people that need that, and no doubt there are lots and lots of really good companies out there that will do that work quickly and fairly and will agree to the amounts that your insurance company is going to pay. But there is pending litigation right now in many areas of the state, particularly some here in Pinellas County, in which there are these very big fights between restoration companies and your insurance companies that puts the policyholder in the middle. Restoration companies have come in the litigation that I'm reading that's right here on my screen. These restoration companies have come in using, as alleged, improper, deceptive, even fraudulent practices to get inside people's houses, start making or doing whatever work they're doing, and then, according to the insurance companies, submitting false, inflated, or improper claims to the insurance companies. Now, that's a very, very big problem. The insurance companies are fighting back very hard, and they should. And part of the allegations contained within this litigation is that there are improper methods of competition and some fraud involved by people working within insurance companies who are then farming out claims to these restoration companies. And the restoration companies, as they call it, it's quoted here in the litigation, there are, quote, moles that are improperly steering and the claims to the insurance companies for restoration services and then pumping up the total value. So I've been involved in some of that litigation as well, and it's a very, very important thing to be paying attention to and looking out for now. Obviously, you want to be dealing with reputable restoration companies. Just take a deep breath before you walk into your house and see you got flood damage and sign up with the first person that comes along. You may be well served to deal with the restoration companies that come to you through your insurance company as opposed to dealing with some of these outsiders. If the restoration companies have a preferred relationship with your insurance company, you're probably going to have a lot easier time getting that claim dealt with than somebody that just walks in on the street. Now, make no mistake, if a restoration company shows up at your door, and I know they're out there, I've seen them here in Pinellas County, if a restoration company shows up at your door and says they want to start doing work, you as the policyholder or homeowner have the ability to sign a contract with them. But here's the thing that people don't recognize. That is, once they're on site and once they're doing work, they determine what the scope of that work is and how much they want to charge you. And so you can look at it and think that, hey, maybe, you know, $5,000, $10,000 is a legitimate amount to pay them. And frankly, your insurance company may agree with you on that. They look at the square footage, they look at the damage, they think $5,000, $10,000 is a fair amount. The restoration company, however, comes in and they slam down a lien against your house for $20,000 or $30,000. A big, big difference between what you and your insurance company thinks is the value of that work and what the restoration company's now slammed onto your house and now are coming after you and suing you for the value of that work. So I think you want to get real clear about what the scope of work that you're engaging in for restoration services and what you are paying, and then get confirmation and get communication with that with your insurance company. Now, unless you think this is an attorney ad trying to tell you need to run out and get an attorney right away, I'm not. What I'm providing you, the consumer, is good information that says work with your insurance company. Exhaust your efforts to come to a settlement and an agreement with your insurance company that doesn't involve you paying any money to anybody else. It's just a one-to-one relationship between your insurance company and you as the policyholder, and then whatever contractor is there on the ground paying them that money it's due. Only after you've exhausted that. You can't come to what you think is a reasonable agreement with your insurance company or these other parties should you involve an insurance company or anybody else, including, and this is an important one, a public adjuster. You know, if the insurance companies are kind of slow getting adjusters out there, or if there's a significant delta between what your insurance company tells you the claim is worth and what you think it's worth, that's when you hire a private adjuster. Right now, there are private adjusters that are all around the state going and signing people up. I think you want to be real careful with that because like any other business, there's good, there's bad. You want to rely on insurance or private adjusters that you can work with, and it may not be necessary to even do that until you don't feel like you're getting the proper treatment out of your own insurance company. So again, oftentimes I think what people need to do after this is just take a deep breath. Really, if you're dealing with a flooded house and you got a relative's house or something else like that to deal with, go there and kind of relax a little bit. One final point, and it's the sort of counterpoint to what I just said, and that is one of the big and really disputed parts of claims that we're going to be dealing with going forward is mold coverage. Now, what happened a few years ago after some prior litigation and events was the insurance companies on a statewide basis went through and had mold exclusions written into contracts. And so what that means is if you've had water damage, whether it's from the bottom or roof or top or window leaking or anything else like that, and you have mold damage, the insurance policies significantly limit the amount of money that they are willing to pay for that mold damage. So that's going to be a big fight going forward. You know, structurally you may be fine. Your insurance company may be, you may come to an agreement as to what they're going to pay for the roof or whatever windstorm damage has occurred. But then when you get interior and you're dealing with rotted out wood or drywall that's wet or carpets or things like that, you're going to find that your policy isn't going to cover that. There's probably not much that you can do because that's what the policy provides. So what that means is there is a burden on you to protect your home, to get some of that water out of there, that mold out of there, because you're not going to get paid that long-term mold coverage. Again, take deep breaths, relax, rely on the advice of professionals and people that you can trust, and be very careful about entering into contracts with people that don't have good recommendations and good relationships with people here in your area.